Well, hello and welcome to the wrap. This is a show running up all things Zwift for the last week. We talk racing, we talk events, we talk tech, we talk fashion. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm Nathan Guerra. This week we have a special co-host / guest, James Barnes. Barney and Z here hanging out with us today, as Anna is where there is no internet, and it's very, very hot from what I'm understanding. And so that's what's so we got a special guest out here today. This is episode number 80 on this Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Episode 80, absolutely crazy. Quick little bit of background on James Barnes. He is one of the top in esports racers in the world. He's been a part of this community for quite a long time. What's your, real quick as I do an introduction, do you know your user number off the top of your head?
Yeah, wait, hold on. It's like 18,000, I think. Hold on.
18,000. So pretty low. Pretty low. Yeah, it's so old school, been around for quite a long time. From the beginning, really, of the esports movement in a lot of ways. He's got 6 wins, 4 podiums. A lot of those, one season was just on absolute fire during the ZGP. I think a lot of those wins during that, I remember that kick into the downhill actually on the McCurry Islands when it first opened up. It was one of the best ones we ever watched. But we'll be talking to James Barnes about how he sees the current space as well as all the topics today when it comes to esports. A little bit of an update that's coming with the update that'll be rolling out here. Well, actually, it's a web update, but web events have been updated with a cool little feature. We'll talk about that. We're going to be talking about sauce or no sauce and what sauce is if you don't know what sauce is for Zwift, similar to sauce. Well, let's try that again. Looks like we're back. The ISP has fixed itself. Sorry about that, everybody. We'll make sure to make some chapters for the playback on the YouTubes. That was a ton of fun. They're probably working out the gremlins that we had about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Still, they said that they were doing lots of upgrades. A lot of times they'll do things late at night. It is the late at night show for us here in the USA. But all right. Let's keep it going. Zwift, so sauce add-ons and that whole space. Zwift Racing League kickoff, whether or not it was a good race, which I think it was absolutely awesome. We'll get into that a little bit. A little bit of chatter about whether or not verification is a thing in the casual community space. Is it a casual community space? What's going on with that? General feeling among the teams. What is the current sentiment among the top esports teams? I know Barney can't speak for everyone, but he does hang out with and has a really great rapport, actually, from what I've seen here amongst a lot of them, and can get a good vibe about, like, what's the sentiment right now about where things are at. On top of that, we've also seen something happening with MyWhoosh this past week, because it seems like there's a bunch of media heading there. The UCI is hanging out in the UAE with them, with announcements that just went out about World Championships now partnering with Whoosh. So interesting stuff happening there. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then a little bit of comparison within the esports space as well, with developments that we've seen with successes and failures that we've kind of been tracking with, that has been really interesting to watch in conjunction with this esports space, because they're not one-to-one, but maybe we can learn some things from what the other esports spaces are struggling or succeeding with. So also spotting Zwifters in the wild, a couple of cool stories around that, as both myself, Gabriella, Barney, we've all had some cool little run-ins that we didn't even know were run-ins maybe up front, which is also really cool. Our jersey pick actually is going to be this awesome Zwift. Actually, I say it's awesome because I'm the one who picked it this week. I'm not always the one who's making the pick. Let us know what you think your rating is on this. It's the level 74 Outfield Kit, the Zwifters Kit. We'll go into a little more detail when we get into it, but this one's a lot of fun. So let's get right down into it. Again, as a reminder, everybody, this is a podcast as well. You can download all the episodes all the way through up to number 79 and 80 real soon over at zwiftcommunitylive.com/podcast, or search the wrap and Zwift. It should come up real quick for you to download anywhere that you do listen to your podcasts. So let's get right on into the topics. First and foremost, as we usually do, what have we been up to? And I'm going to shoot it over to, our experience actually over the last 2 months, because you have been hanging out in the streams that I'm doing on my personal channel a lot, James. And I know that we've had kind of similar Zwift seasons, it feels like a little bit. I've had a little more injury, I feel like, but we've had like a little bit of ups and downs. Like started hot, started good, and then, what happened?
I had COVID middle of December, which luckily, I was very lucky first time I got it, and I was lucky it was very mild for me, so I didn't have to take too much time off. I was down for a week, no activities for a week at all, but then 2 weeks of very light exercise, so no intervals at all. And then this obviously led straight, basically had a week of training and then was away for a week in Fiji over Christmas and New Year's for honeymoon holiday, which was like unbelievable. Just that, but again, as you said, is like that rebuilding, I was having probably some of the best form I've ever had, was going really, really well. And then, then had to do this reset, which was, tough. And then you have to you want to get back on the horse. I'm sure it's like, what you've had with your back and you want to get into it and get going, but then you have to remember and remind yourself. And it's like Alex Coe and myself talking a lot about it, is like, it's a process. You can't just get it all straight back, and you have to, listen to your body, take it step by step. Again, big thing we've realized with COVID. And so don't overdo it at the beginning. Let your body kind of lead yourself into it. Trust yourself, trust the process, because it'll come back. And now I've been training, 3 weeks really hard, and I had a really big week last week, and I can feel the legs are now responding really well to it, and the form is coming back. So again, it's that whole thing of like, I'm sure you'll say as well, trust the process.
Yeah, I've got a somewhat similar in some ways. I mean, I got sick probably, I don't know, it was like 3-4 weeks ago now. A little while, like probably like 3 weeks after you did, right around there, 4 weeks maybe, something like that. And like this one took me out hard, and I still had almost like pneumonia like symptoms a little bit, like still had stuff in the lungs last week, and this week is the first time not. And then this back situation as well has been a little bit of struggle. So the build back, I've really had to trust this process and even like start other processes that I might not be doing right now in order to get into recovery. So it's been recovery mode for me as well. But I mean, let's talk about, what have we been up to besides that? You said the form's been coming back on but it also, I noticed like ZGP and the level and how high it is. Like, how did last week go? I mean, I was like, whoa, man, where's Barney? What's up?
Yeah. So like, I was probably I was probably at like 80, 85, 90%. Like, I struggle. Like, I don't like giving myself credit, but like, I could definitely feel I wasn't at the level. And then that race started out the gun, like, and I've never seen a race like that start. And with Yorkshire being as hard as Yorkshire racing is, because it's so unrelenting and up and down, I was at 405 watts normalized for the first 20 minutes up into the KOM. I was holding. I was holding as best as I can, and then my leg, and then I was holding. I just held the pace up the KOM, and then they all accelerated over the top. And speaking to everybody, and it's amazing to see how the levels increased of all the riders. And obviously we've got all the new talent and the new guys coming through, which is it's great to see, because again, that whole thing, steel sharp and steel, and you can't. You got to keep evolving and keep pushing yourself to get to the next level. So, and it was really, that race was really mentally hard for me, because I just felt like I was just chasing. And from that point, any race I was doing there, all I was doing was chasing. And it was just like, it's, and I'm sure you found it as well. You knew, you can ride at that level, you can be comfortable at that level, but you just feel like you're just under pressure the whole time, and you're pushing, and you're having to push yourself the whole time just to kind of be significant. And for me, it was also tough as well with that race, is that GP came down to 1 point. Now, if I scored if I scored 1 point somewhere, we could have won.
I was thinking about that actually. I was thinking about that.
Like, it's that whole hindsight thing, and I was hoping that the race would settle down, so then I'd be able to commit somewhere else and be sneaky. But then maybe hindsight, I should have gone for that first sprint. But again, it's that whole thing. It's like,
those ones are tough too. The points hunter are tough with like, you have a lot of hindsight in those a lot of times where it's like, oh, maybe we could have risked. There's a lot
Yeah.
of risk reward in those ones. So then you put in a huge weekend though, I thought, right? Like you like this was
Yeah.
your first big block since being sick, it sounds like.
Massive block, yeah. So basically raced GP in the morning, commuted into the office. Saturday morning, did a race, a Zwift race in the morning. Literally got off the bike, went straight to a chain gang with a bunch, which was, an hour and 20 minutes at 321 normalized. Was late for that bunch. I had to chase on for 10Ks to get to the bunch. Then did a bit of extras with Monique, the wife, afterwards. Had a nice coffee afterwards, which was great. And then Sunday morning raced ERL. Legs were toast, blew there. So I ended up with, I think, 420 TSS for the weekend, for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For 6 or 7 hours of riding total. So I could feel it and feeling on Tuesday, but then felt it this week. Then with the intervals, I was still able to smash the intervals. So trying to focus hard on the recovery and focus. Understand that the legs will come back and the legs will come forward. So again, it's that looking forward now to Zwift Games. Really excited that, and then also trying to plan the year around the World Championships as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's good that you're on the mend and like it sounds like full gas into training again, and so that's awesome. Totally. I'm like surviving on races right now. I don't know if you know. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like as far as motivation goes, like I'm gonna
Yeah.
go race, and that's about all I can find the
Yeah.
motivation for at this moment because I'm like in such a rebuild mode. Of not
Yeah.
even
And it feeds
rebuild.
your
Like I wouldn't even
competitiveness as well.
say, yeah, like it's not even a rebuild mode. It's more of a
Just keep going.
keep going and where's the aim at and not lose all the
Yeah.
fitness without an aim.
Sides.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Without an aim,
Yeah.
I
Makes.
need,
Yeah.
okay, well, where's the motivation to go and like ride my
Yeah.
bike for 3 hours? And then I don't even know if I can ride my bike.
Yeah.
Like if I do, is it going to injure me? So I'm
Will my
trying to
back
figure
be
that one
okay?
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're trying to figure that one out. I'm spending a lot of time in the gym.
And then-
Yesterday was the first time I was telling you in pre-production, I could actually put
Yeah.
like 50, 60 kilo on and actually do a trap without thinking, I was still thinking, am I going to hurt myself? I could feel it a little bit, but it wasn't like pain. It was like, this is probably just working it out. But all right, let's jump into then ZRL. Did you race ZRL this week or no?
Yeah. I raced
did?
it. Yeah. I survived our EMEA Northern, one of them, the 715 GMT one, I think it was. Survived the climb up to the top, which for me, I was like, yes, like awesome, because our zone
That's
is,
like
our
an
division
7
is
to
so
8 watts per
competitive.
kilogram all the way to the top, I would think.
Yeah, I didn't look at what it was, but I was just like chuffed that I was able to, be there, current at the front with the bunch, and then able to then ride smart and then sit in the draft all the way through. Not try kick too hard, not get sucked into the big acceleration at the bottom. Just try ride hard, be there. So if I need to then put a really big dig, I can kind of jump across, but know that there's that little flat bit in the middle, which you can, if again, that whole Zwiftcraft of accelerating into the little accelerator into the little pinches so that you can then accelerate up and over, and in the flat bit before the bridge, same thing, they accelerate so then you can move forward for little effort, and be more efficient. Make sure you know where your positioning is with the draft. And then obviously, with the change as well, the fix that they've done for the controllers, if you have one controller paired, the movement is a bit better. I personally,
Do you think it's better?
I think
Do
it's
you
not
think,
great.
okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's a good little, no, that's a good little bunny trail actually. So there was a bug that was there that was making it so that
Yeah.
if you had the play controllers connected and then they disconnected, or you went into an event that they weren't supposed to be used in and they were then disconnected, but they're still connected to the game. They're just not working for steering.
Yep.
You couldn't find a draft. It was like there was actually like confused. The game was confused about what to do with you. There was a fix now. And you were in chat like saying, and there was like wondering, and maybe I should ask, I mean, maybe like, is it actually even better to have, is the draft finding even better than regular draft finding when you have play controllers paired but don't have them being used for steering or something like, or turn them off afterwards or something like that?
So like for me, I think as a bigger rider, I don't know if it is, and I try not to do too much racing, because just I'm so bad at burning myself out. But as a bigger rider, I find it I don't hunt my avatar doesn't hunt the draft as hard. It doesn't chase it as hard. I found either it's because I've got the bigger rewards, is I tend to find my avatar sitting to the side a lot more rather than in the middle, which it used to. You know, I used to find my avatar used to sit and hunt in the middle. You know, we used to hunt for it, whereas now it'll just sit comfortably, you know, will settle for sitting on the side rather than trying to push its way to the middle and thing. But again, I don't race a heavily huge amount. So again, I'll see an ERL this weekend as well, which is again Libby finish, which will be great and a nice one to see as well. But yeah, that course, I love that Oceanside lava loop. I think it's called
Cliffside
Ocean
loop, the
Cliffside lava
cliffside,
loop.
yeah, cliffside loop.
I love it. It's such a good course for racing because you can be super aggressive, and like how in our race, how we kept pushing over the top, and you know, if you relaxed in the little rollers, you can get spat out the back so quickly. But you can make the racing harder, you can make the racing easy, you know. And then again, the attacks out from underneath the water, or the attacks before coming out from underwater, I really liked it. I wish there was 2 laps for the A division.
You know, what's
Maybe keep it to 1
interesting?
lap for C's and D's.
What's interesting is that cliffside, there's something like that keeps coming out about Sugar Cookie and the Oceanside cliffside loop.
Yeah.
Those two use the same climbing distance, just on different sides of the same climb. It's just it's up either bridge on both sides of the lower ends of the epic mountain. Maybe there's something to that, like along a little bit of flats,
Yeah.
followed up by that long of a punch, because it's longer than Watopia forward hilly, and it's not as flat as Watopia reverse, and it's not as long as the volcano. It's like this 3 minute or so. Like it's this, you know, is that part of why you like it so much?
And the hilly reverse also has that big flat bit, has that really large flat bit in the middle where if you just didn't touch, you can get a large amount of
you just sit. Yeah, it doesn't even do anything.
Whereas in, you know, with the epic climbs as well, there's very little places to hide unless you're in a big, you know, Verticom is a big bunch to get the draft out of. So, you know,
seems like there's something really perfect about this climb. Yeah. Like that really, maybe we need more climbs like this. Maybe there's more courses that take advantage of a punchier. I think you might be onto something, because we always talk about how good the racing is, but it's not so long that it like blows it completely up. Like a chase can still get back, you know?
Yes. But it's also, in talking to that, then you look at the ERL racing and you look at those courses, they've never really been, you know, but then I think it's also down to, again, the teams and how the people approach the racing, and, you know, how much people are wanting to race and how eager they are to race. And then if they're racing aggressively and they're racing, you know, hard, then that racing can also be hard and exciting no matter what the course is.
So let's transition then to why people are racing so hard in ZRL, ERL. What's the motivation? These racing series, they seem to have they have a different status than Z Racing. They have a different status, I mean, obviously, than a lot of the other racing that's going on the platform besides Zwift Grand Prix, which then though brings out more questions, I think, right? Like it feels like it's trying without intention, maybe, right? Like I think that when I speak to Martin, like he wants to have as clean of racing and verified his racing as he possibly can, but at the same time, he's like, most of the time, he's like, these are like people just at home looking to get a workout, have fun, Nathan. You know what I mean? He's like, and so there's this like, well, which is, you know what I mean? But there is definitely a part of the community. We say this over, and I know over and over again, but the only reason I'm saying it now is because we're seeing at the start of ZRL seasons, I do feel like you get a little bit more of this, like, hey, what's going on here? Who's that? What's going on with that? What's going on with that? When we're talking about verification around efforts, and then you get, and then it seems like every 2 to 3 weeks in, a lull of acceptance and then a disinterest, but only amongst the ones who really are like, and that's the group we're talking about when we talk about, like, there is this demand for some verification across all categories. I think it falls off a little bit when you get like C and D category, but even there, but I think you get above there. Go ahead. What do you think? Go ahead.
I think you can't discount C&D racing at all, like with the level of verification, because the guys there are still putting their hearts out. A perfect
Yeah.
example for me is a mate of mine, Mike, who was an average C rider, and he's now within less than a year is now B, and he's competing with B and pushing B, and he I feel for those guys there because they're having to fight the guys who are not taking it too seriously. And again, I almost feel like talking to other people as well. It's up to the community to uphold the standards of the racing and the best racing as possible. Yes, you can't, in community races, you can't have the level of verification that you can have, say, in ERL or GP, which has strict and stringent rules and follow-ups. But the thing is, you as a community member and thing can still have the ability to call out and try, say, hey, oh, I can see you're doing X, or I can see you're doing Y, which is not great. Sticky Watts as an example, and calling them out and saying, hey, like, you shouldn't really be doing that. Yes, you can't get them removed, but, and the guys who have wheel on trainers for the C and D divisions, yes, obviously, that's not as accurate as the divisions, but again, you can't change that. So it's a case of as well, like, accepting it, but then using that as motivation to push yourself harder and train harder and then improve yourself better. So then how can I be smart or improve my Zwift craft as well to then beat this person? It's that kind of feeling as well. But then what I think is great as well is that you've got ERL who's coming in and organizing their own events, other than Zwift, which is then bringing in the outside verification and sets of rules, which is following the standard, inverted commas, the standardized Premier level like rules, and saying you have to have your smart trainer set to here. You can only have these trainers allowed. You have to have dual recordings, posted, and these are there's weight videos as well. Yes, they have a 48-hour window, which is different to the 2-hour. There's wins on both sides. We can go down that rabbit hole if you want to, but then there's that level of extra verification which we hope to see and we want to see, where it's being consistently applied to all the riders and all the races, which then hopefully means that the racing is more fair and there's none of these fly-by-nighters, I like to call them, where they're just coming in and just not destroying the racing, but changing the racing and the outcome of the racing by not following the rules. Because you've read the rules by entering these, the ERL, and you've accepted the rules by reading them. So now you have on yourself to follow those rules to the best of your abilities and comply with them, because you've had them sent to you and you've acknowledged them basically by entering the race. So making sure you have the power meter, your trainer paid to Zwift, and you have a secondary power source, to dual record to verify yourself, and so going down rabbit holes here, but yeah, that sort of thing. So it's a really tough one, because we all want to grow the community, and we all want to see the community grow, and we want to see the racing level improve, but we also don't like it when people are completely ignorant and try, like, blasely come in and have Vercom as a bot controlling and just going and destroying and wrecking the racing. Nobody wants that. If that makes sense.
That's a whole nother. Okay, so there's like 5 topics. The William Chow topic is a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But that kind of relates a little bit about like where authority might need to exist on some of those things, and where a conflict of interests may exist at times. Because like you said, we all want to grow the community. We want as much participation as we possibly can get. And the motivations for participation change, though, like at different expectation levels as you walk into the space. From platform is going to want as many participants as you can possibly get. And is it as a Zwift racing league and put on by WTRL? I haven't actually scoured the rules this season, to be totally honest. But in there, is it? I mean, you can't have Z power, correct? No Z power in a ZRL race. Yeah, but you can have a wheel on trainer, right? Like and you can use a power meter, and I mean you can use any other power source except for a Z power. So I mean, at that point, we're still fairly casual, right? Like the expectation is just that You can connect a power source. We're trusting that power source. And it's not actually written in the rules that if this power source is off by 5 to 10%, there's going to be a problem, right? Like that's not in the rules. So like now it's different though when you go into an ERL race. And so it's kind of like this kind of gray area, you know what I mean there, that needs a better definition, it feels like. Like, what do you think about that, Barney? And I think we're kind of, let's let everyone know we're kind of transitioning a little bit here to give you, you're good. Like to give you a space to be like, first we'll start with the community here and how you feel about where you're racing. Cause I really want to give you a space to just talk and like, be like, this is where things are at for what you think. And, you know, that's the community side ZRL and how you see your interaction there and what you like about it, might not like about it. And then you're also a participant at the elite level where there is a bar to entry. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to do things. And so, and it's trying to uphold certain things and what it's up to and what you feel about that space, which are two totally, so just so everyone knows, we're talking about two totally different spaces with their expectations. So start with the ZRL though. Where do you see things are at there?
I think ZRL is in a really good space. I personally feel there's too many time zone divisions. You know, 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30, 7:45. Crikey, like you're just all you're doing is you're spreading the talent. You know, you're spreading that kind of thing out. You know, I'd love to see it being concentrated in more divisions. And then bring back with the promotion relegation system,
that might be like there's numbers there though, Barney. There's so many numbers there. Like there's a lot of people.
Yeah, so I understand from that point of view, but then I'm also like, but then on not hindsight, but like on another topic, what's been great is seeing then the like stuff like the Zwift Hub come in, which has made a wheel inverted commas a pretty accurate trainer. For the masses, being able for communities, people to do racing, but don't have the budget for the top of the line kickers and stuff to meet this top standards, but then still have a power source that is pretty accurate compared to a wheel on trainer or your dumb, inverted commas, your kicker snaps, and you know what I'm trying to say here is that it's nice to see. It's also the hardware providers stepping up the game and making it more accessible. To the cheaper, not cheaper, but the lowering the entry level barrier.
The entry level has a higher verification now. Is what I think is what you're really getting at there. That people can race in a way that's more standardized. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. There's a better standard. You can trust which allows it. But then again, it's also up to the community to uphold the standards and try keep it going and it's nice to see that. I really enjoy the ZRL racing because you obviously don't have the pressure of the GP racing, 1 point changing the whole result type thing, so you can have a bit more fun with it, and you can just have a bit more banter and a bit more, go in and just enjoy the racing for what it is. And I think that's, at the moment, the sentiment definitely within the people and the teams is it's in a good space at the moment, but they're still hungry for more. They're still hungry for that more growth, and like what you see with the other not the esports, but the other like the esports in terms of like Counter-Strike and such, where you're having other promoters and other events taking over and driving the growth and creating more tournaments and different. Yes, maybe with the support of Zwift, but they don't have the platform doesn't have control over it, and they're driving it, and they're driving the tournaments, and they're driving the growth, not just for the racing, but for the community as a whole, which is great. And I think if there's a portal to then for those events, people to then create their own events and control how those events are created, unlike unfortunately like with ERL we had that bug with the time trial where it was just set up incorrectly. Is that kind of thing. Maybe it removes that. Guys have put their time and heart and soul into getting ready for these races, and then something small like that falls away, like what happened with GP as well in the first race.
So, okay, that moves into another space to talk about from ZRL. No, pretty happy with ZRL. You did say though that it seems like there is a hunger for a little bit more in that space around, but then you moved right away over to talking about ERL, and And I think that is where we get this answer a little bit, is in community organizers answering that. And maybe, I don't know what would happen with ZRL. I'm not in charge of that in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
Whether or not Zwift want to have a little bit higher of a verification level within their branded stuff like that. I don't know how that would ever, necessarily be able to work out longer term. And I'm not sure that that's the best move, but at least in amongst a mass community, because already there's a lot trying to be done. You know what I mean? By a single platform. But I think that you do have this old school, not just, you have this enthusiast group that really loves racing. I am seeing in chat, like, yeah, C&D, we're us C&D riders, we want fair racing as well. Like, it isn't like, and that's a massive pool. And even amongst those crews, after ZRL, in a lot of the Discord channels, how much of the chat afterwards is about what's real and what's not real?
Like, of course, it's when it's trashing the races and destroying the racing and the fun of the event, then obviously people go and light the torches and get angry about it. But then it's also, I think it's also linked to how then the GP's been split away from the promotion relegation system, which then I felt automatically cleaned up a lot of the top tier of racing and how people could get promoted and demoted through the system, because then you don't want to get promoted into the GP and then you don't pass the verification, and then you look like the laughing stock of, inverted commas, the laughing stock of people, because you've tried, you've cheated your way into it, and now you've been found out.
Can you define Verticom for everybody? What is what is that?
What's Verticom?
Yeah, what were you just saying? You were using a term.
The promotion relegation and verification. Sorry, the verification.
Gotcha.
So it's like how we all have to do not ZADA, but like the power testing before every GP season. Making sure get your power profiles in. So once it used to happen is that the teams, you'd finish your division, the top three would then move to all the top three teams from all the divisions would race each other, and then the top three teams would have a chance to be promoted into the Premier Division, which then all those riders have to go through verification post that to make sure that they meet the standards, so that then they meet the standards of all the other riders that are racing in the Premier Division. Do you have dual power recordings, and do you have the correct trainers and such? So it then meant, do you want to go through all that effort to get all the way there, and then now you get found out, or you can't now race at Premier Division, or you've taken away the spot of somebody else.
Yeah, gotcha. One thing as far as that goes, that just kind of popped in my head is like, is that like, we need something kind of centralized, but at the same time, does it allow for the ERLs, the regional, the because like ERL is kind of a North American thing. Like, we do have some participation coming from other places, but it was based around the national championships. And like, with that freedom that we saw given to ERL to do something on the platform and go for it, it had its hiccups, it had a lot of learnings, and stuff like that. But at the same time, it was kind of that next level, that next step of expectation and skin in the game in some ways. Like,
but also growth of like the community and the racing, which was great to see, and I think it definitely, we saw the racing evolve.
What do you mean by growth? Because like,
I'm talking growth in terms of a lot of the same terms, but like a lot of the growth and the evolution of the racing itself. I've never seen such aggressive racing and such exciting racing to watch than I have in like ERL. Like, I don't know, from your side commentating, maybe you can chime in and say like how you feel about it. But as a rider, man, when I had to sit out those first three races, I was sitting there like frothing. I was like, I wish I was there racing, because it looked so exciting and it looked really, to be a part of that. Like, I love that style of racing. I love that kind of, because a lot can happen, and it's just really cool to see. So for and then I talk growth as well in terms of for Eric and the team as well, growth for them, because now they've learned a lot. Now they can go away, and then for this season 2, series 2, they can now apply that and take it to the next step and keep it moving forwards, and hopefully keep the momentum growing it forwards, and taking it to the next level. And hopefully it's not at 5 o'clock in the morning for me on a Sunday morning, which is which would be great.
Well, that's
But
so that's what I was gonna say. There is that we see other. Well, I have seen direct contact then because of what ERL is doing to like, hey, something coming out of South America. Hey, like we want to do something similar to that in Europe. Hey, we want to do. I mean, we have Canadian nationals coming up, right? Like these regional things able to pop up and have this support of is that part of the model? I'm not sure if that necessarily is. I mean, but at the same time, you have time constraints too, don't we?
Exactly.
Right? Like we have time constraints on who can race when. And your 5 a.m. comment is like, well, I could race at a better time for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing with other platforms as well, where we're talking where they're only allowing for one time zone, for certain racing. And I think, but as
Can we
well,
talk? Can we look at other esports? Let's talk about other esports there, not just other platforms, but other esports. SEA qualifiers, North American qualifiers, European qualifiers. They happen at times that suit, but when they go to the big competition, they either show up in real life or they know, okay, I have to set aside because there's $1 million on the line or whatever the heck is going on, right? Like,
but that's exactly it. And like how we spoke in pre-production as well, is that then you could have different series for different regions, and then you have, maybe somebody comes together and brings together, the top 3 from each region to have the like Verticom is like the international, or the top, the world, the series N type thing. And then if you need to, like how I had to for the first World Zwift World Championships, I was racing at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so I knew I had set aside the time. So you then did it, but you couldn't do that week in and week out, because that for me could affect my work, affects. It's a hit. I feel bad for the people around me. Again, obviously waking the house at 4 o'clock in the morning to do weigh-ins, and then turning fans on and racing, and obviously poor neighbors, with the window open type stuff as well, and the poor, money having to listen to me making sprinting noises and stuff. It's that whole thing as well, is that it's the same. I have that same issue with MyWhoosh Racing, the Sunday Race Club, because it's at the moment it's 11 o'clock at night, and then I have to go to work the next morning. It's not fair. I don't feel like the effort involved in that is not worth the, it's not a paycheck that's going to change my life. Yes, the $1 million might.
Can I ask a question there then? So, we jumped around a little bit from ZRL, then we did okay, there's this in between thing that seems like it's forming. Seems like there's some cool things about that. What that structure exactly looks like, how it's structured, is another question that we'll go into, maybe come back to as we relate to other esports areas, specifically looking at what's happened with Overwatch League over the last 5 years or so. But then let's move into the elite side and your feelings and your general sentiment around the elite side of racing right now. Because you started talking now about MyWhoosh and specifically Sunday Race Club, which is considered now as partnership with UCI and the elite side of racing with them, right? And then with you're part of ZGP, which is the elite side of racing with Zwift, and all the players in this entire space, and you've been experiencing it from the get-go. Where are you enjoying it? So where are you enjoying it? Where are you like, I don't really like this, and this is what I'd like to see maybe change or whatever it might be, and like, what are your general feelings about moving forward in this space right now? Where do you see it going? How are things amongst the whole teams and everything?
Yeah, you're gonna have to guide me here, because it's like a lot to digest and spit out and answer the questions, and so chime in when you want particulars about certain things. So I think the space at the moment, talking to everybody, it's quite good. The problem is that, again, how we're always hungry for more. What's next? So we don't know when the next Grand Prix season is, but we obviously know that there's Zwift Games in March. So everybody's now focused on that. But then again, it's the case of you look at the gap between the last 2 Zwift Grand Prix seasons. Not much. It was quite big. So it's that case of, now we need to plan things as well, and it's so people are now looking for elsewhere to racing, and I think this is where echelon racing is really can fill that void of putting on a regular series again, and then hopefully again. But that's where for me ZRL fills that void with that racing and that competitiveness and that regular racing, because it is more regular but it's not as serious. But then the time zone, there's the ability and the flexibility of the time zone, which I don't get for MyWhoosh, which is at a time zone I can race at, but I don't want to race at because I've got to do a job in the next day, and I've got to deliver for customers and such, the work there at a good level, and I don't want to hinder that. But then the same, obviously ERL is one time zone, but it's luckily at a time zone which is acceptable, for me, and I'm able to race at, and I think it's a shame that it's at a time, I think, where I think for the first iteration, and I think with its focus around the North American racing, obviously we didn't see as many people coming in, that could have come racing, like the cryo teams and such, which I think could have been great to see them. But I think definitely for them coming for the second season, definitely I want to try to get Martins and them coming and getting involved, because again it'll raise the level of the racing and make us all keep pushing ourselves to improve, because again, as we've seen, the levels really included.
So
But
then,
it's that,
so you kind of came back to ERL, and like it sounded like you wanted to bring people in to that, like. So
because this racing there is so exciting, because the racing is so, like, I really enjoy that racing. That racing is aggressive. It is really hard racing. It's not just sitting in, watching everybody, and then okay, we sprint for the sprint point, or we sprint for the points, or we go for the KOM, or we sprint for the finish. It is trying to form the breakaway, just trying to and you get out of it, you finish that race and you're like, I gave that everything. I gave that
interesting
my all. And there's tactics of, okay, we need this person to do well, so we're going to use myself, and probably Scott's going to be a domestic type thing, and we're going to try to cover the moves and keep it together, and that kind of, which is cool, because you don't really get that. We never really got that in the GP.
Can I ask you a question then? Can I ask you a question on that? Do you think that then the Zwift Grand Prix models aren't functioning on perhaps the assumptions of what bike racing is for how you win and compete? Like the assumptions in bike racing is you have energy expenditures in ways that you train, very specific. And you just talked about, so the things you said, okay, this is what you said to me. I enjoyed that because I know that I gave my all. It forced you to give your all in the tactics, and the racing never stopped. Like that's, if I heard you right, there was like
you heard me perfectly right. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So it kind of, it falls to me, like, I'll say it outright, I don't like the points hunter format because it lays too much on luck and time. You've got a bunch of 60 people chasing 2 points. Now you got to, the bunch sprints, they are very hard to get right, and to get that, yes, there's a skill involved in you, but you have to be quite strong. But then again, it's falling on a thing of just a bit too much of a luck, and it doesn't come down to how your driftcraft is and how strong you are, and it's too much of a chance type thing, if that makes sense. Whereas where you look at the ERL, like the style of the racing there, yes, it's obviously all been just finish lines and such, but the racing to get to that point has been very dynamic, and it's not just to the finish line. There's actual other racing and tactics involved too, which is great to see. So I think ZGP, there's a space for it, but I think there's definitely where we need to bring it back to like how we had it with the Premier Division, and kind of link it to the community quite heavily, because there was that very big and very strong following in the community where they were like, okay, how are these guys racing it? We can learn from this, and we can apply these tactics in our own race the next day. And I think that definitely hugely drove up engagement and following and viewership, and people were excited, and people would ask me about it, and how did I feel about it, and then you'd see them go race it, and then people see discussions about it, which was really cool. I like some of the new formats, the epic point, epic points hunter and such. But then there's also, I think there's a space, there's its own unique space, and I think it still needs to find it, where it's you can invite community teams, and then you have the premier teams on the side, but then you have the premier division, which mirrors, inverted commas, is just above the community, but then there's clear pathways for the community to get there. But then the
Gotcha.
point, the points hunter and then I'm going to say the gamified style events, there's still that ability for communities to be involved. You can say like a lottery team, lottery pick, where these teams can get picked, and it changes every week or every 2 weeks, and they can get involved. But then you still have the top guys racing too, to make sure that the level is still very high and competitive, and you can still easily dynamically tweak it and change it to then find until it finds that correct space, for it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's really tough at the moment. I think there's a huge, for me, I think I'd love to see more verticommerce promoters and somebody and more people come in, like the Lantern Rouge and such, and then drive that, and then create inverted commas, like you can, you pay $5 out of it, per entry per race, which then goes towards making sure that the standards and the verifications is held,
Hmm.
for it, and then make sure, and then that'll drive then the racing, and that kind of, then you can get sponsors involved, and like how we spoke in pre-production, then you can kind of grow that pot per se, and that, that thing
Speak to
more.
that a little bit. There's a lot on the line at Zwift at like these top levels.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it jumps over one or two steps by
Yeah.
doing so, that there's a large amount of investment with a lot on the line for success or failure, and
Yeah.
like there needs to be return? But
Yeah.
if
100%.
you don't, if you do it the way you were talking about, the return already exists for those who are participating. So
Yeah.
participation in and of
Yeah.
itself is the return. You just get your race out of it. And if you enjoyed it, you enjoyed it, and you come back and you pay again,
Yeah.
or you don't pay again.
Yeah. And again, like if there is a pot on the side for the most combative, or the KOA, like yeah, then there is a little bit of money on the side. Where I felt GP missed the mark again this season was, yes, there was participation money, but then 1 point, to give again, be frank, 1 point cost the team $10,000, because first place got money, second place got nothing.
Hmm.
What happened if there was such a big points gap and no double points in the final round, that then not second or third could then race to it? Would it then change the racing? Maybe it would. Would the teams be as committed as they were to still try and, to win it? If
Hmm.
there was money all the way down, say, to fifth or seventh, then you can see there will be fighting to get the next place or the next Verticommerce prize pool.
Interesting. So okay, let's talk a little bit about the MyWhoosh stuff, and then let's maybe bring
Yeah.
in some examples from what we've seen with the Overwatch League thing. So with the MyWhoosh, wow, like there's been a lot of rumblings out of the UAE over the last week. I've seen a lot of people saying they're traveling there. I've seen people racing from there. Well, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about people racing from there. Zach Neer, I'm hearing, is over there. And then I saw that the Virtual Velo network is going there. Christopher Schwenker has been there, as well as Cy Bradley, I believe, is on site. The UCI is there with like a whole bunch of their officials and president, alongside of the UAE governing officials, like of the state, as well as the ownership of MyWhoosh, which is a really interesting bringing together of entities around. Now, I would say from the release I just read, I read on GCN, I read Velo, and I read Cycling News, all put out an article today saying the UCI and MyWhoosh announce 3-year partnership for Esports World Championships. That's already been a headline, though. I think GCN got it right. MyWhoosh announced as official partner. So this is something new, because we've already known about the Esports World Championships for a while. The new announcement that came alongside of this seems to be that there's a partnership now alongside of UCI Road World Championships and Worlds specific to those world championships that has been added on to this partnership. So, go ahead and say, what are you thinking about
because I think it's also because of basically because if you remember, Zwift was also a partner. They used to sponsor. They were a sponsor of the UCI Road Championships.
Gotcha.
So I think that announcement there is basically MyWhoosh stepping in and replacing Zwift, and they're putting money into the UCI for that inverted commas privilege.
Got it. No, that's a good.
So then it's going to be interesting to see on Tuesday what happens, with and coming out of all of this and all the talking, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see, and hopefully I get a chance to talk to Zach about it as well. What's going on, and he also got the really awesome opportunity to interview Pog, which is I'm so looking forward to that interview. So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I did see. I saw
awesome.
Chris was riding with Tade as well, and so there were some photos going out, and I mean, it's a pretty high level. It's high level hype, and everything. As far as what's new here, I would say, okay, there's rights being given. Okay, that's what's one thing. Okay, what's actually happening? Like, and my whole thing is like, how are we growing this sport? You know what I mean? And like, what I see is like money changing hands and rights being thrown around, and I'm like, but who's racing? Like, and how's, like, when you say the word growth, like everyone throws this word around, growth, grow. I'm like, what do you mean by growth? Like, what is that? Like, are more people racing? Is there new structures that more teams events? Are doing? Are there like more hyped events that have like big viewership numbers? Are there, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about when you say growth? And I'm like, really? It just looks like somebody, I'm sorry, but like, and this is where, like, I wrote in my show notes, there's a Nathan is frustrated and a little sad, but still very focused. Like, I wrote that in there because there's all this hype around like stuff's happening. And I'm like, people are exchanging money, like, and putting titles on things. Like, so,
but then what's actually changing? What's actually happening? What's actually coming from it? Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like, and it's like the same people with the same stuff that's going on. It's just like, guys, like, we've seen money exchange hands for a long time, over and over and over again into space, and lots of investment. But what has what's actually, where's the growth? Where's the real growth?
What is coming from that investment too? Like, where's that? Like, you're saying money and investment, but what's actually changed? What's fundamentally changed? What's coming of it? Like, we know the UCI is working on the standard for power meter management, like measurements, and the standard for watts. But they've been talking about it for how long now? But have we seen anything about it? Have we heard anything about it? I only heard anything a little bit more about it from Mick Rogers when I was there in Singapore. But have I heard anything else from that point? Have we heard any development from that point? No. It's the same thing with the announcements for the UCI World Championships. There's nothing else moved forward from it.
No, I wouldn't say. I'm not going to say that they're not working. I don't know. I'm not at MyWhoosh. I don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? I'm not connected there in any way. But at this point, like, it is. I'm just going to say what it is that's happening right now. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's a lot of the same that we've seen. So you kind of go, well, okay. And that's where I'm kind of like, I get a little scared and frustrated. Yeah, because I've seen big money thrown at spaces that like actually hurts the space. That you can hurt a space by throwing too much money at a space. And that's where I'm going to transition to our Overwatch conversation.
Yep.
Overwatch League
and it's scary.
Is nothing right now. Literally, there's nothing like it's just died and people lost their jobs and just things just went bah! And tons of money got thrown at it though, and then just like nothing. And so if you don't have a structure and you don't and there's a really good interview actually with Richard Lewis on Overwatch League from 6 years ago. Good, everybody, 6 years ago, and if you can read between the lines about what is happening in our space and compare it there. Like, seriously, it's like, pay attention. And what he's saying is like, the platform needs to make the product. Focus on that. do that and then and build it up so that it can support the people who are doing the promotion. And you had said something in pre-production about the elite level and like wanting
connecting it to the community,
connecting it to the community and wanting like, hey, well, like a social post of like your thing that you're doing, or like the fact that it's going on. But at the same time, like the people who push back about that at Zwift, they have a good point that we can only talk about so many things on our channels. It's like, okay, so maybe what you need to do is just make the game awesome and let other people grow the sport around your platform.
And here you're going again with the growing, but also the biggest thing I like, Richard, like when you hear it is, again, it's the same thing. Like you talk about it, and hopefully I talk about it too. But you can feel it is the passion they have. That here's that like raw passion that literally you can feel it seeping through the video when you watch it, and how he's talking about it. He doesn't care about the money and things. He's just caring about something that he's passionate about, and he wants to see the best thing for it. And again, that's the whole thing where I talk about it, you know, rather try and be the tide that raises all ships. Try and be the person and thing that, you know, sets the example, and that, you know, you are trying to just, but then, and again, and it comes back to what we said as well, and that where other people can step in and then, you know, as you said, have regional competition or championships in the areas and get the people, you know.
So let's go. Okay, but let's before we go back there, let's stay on like something, a very specific example, like with where does your stuff get shared then though? Like if you share something, then where does it get shared? Like where does the promotion? It happens with the people who are benefiting alongside your growth, right? And so like the same space where you're racing, so ERL then sees this cool thing that James Barnes does, and they have the space because they have a thing that is just about Echelon Racing League growing with the athletes. Do you see what I'm saying?
And it's the following and the people that engage, you know, with me, with the streaming and with that racing, and just being able to, you know, again, virtual commerce, like the mutual handshake, you know, like I tag, you know, Alex Coe with the coaching and such with there, because, you know, with the workouts that I post and thing, because people see the hard work that I'm putting in, but then people see, okay, cool, Alex is, and then he shares that on and gets that through. But I'm also sharing and tagging other people that I'm, you know, do work with and like to align myself with, because, you know, inverted commas, I think they're great people, great products, or great brands, and then driving, and then again, it's that whole thing of that inverted commas, that mutual handshake, and that, you know, I'm here to try grow the sport, but then we can join together forces and propel this at an even harder rate, because we can join our communities together and our followings together as different companies and brands, and then just push it and like light the jet fuel.
Now, what I want to make sure that one thing that's not being heard here is that I'm not being critical of the platforms not sharing esports stuff. Because part of the thing that Zwift are trying to do is to like not just be this like serious racing and I want way more Zwifters to come in, and I totally get it. Like if you just do like intimidating racing stuff like too much, you're gonna, and so you end up with like kind of like a 50 hats that this is trying to serve so many different avenues, and you can't just be like, and then people just get mad because you're flooding them with stuff, and you're just like, well, is this esports? Is this, am I just racing on a platform? Am I riding on a platform? Am I just here for a workout or the workout? You know what I mean? It's like too many things trying to be served.
But then there's some like, what is this guy's name? But then there's some really cool people that posting on YouTube their journey on Zwift to try and lose weight, and I'll just gotta find this guy's name, and I think it's an amazing journeys and people to see, and it's really, really cool. It's like, you know, like you and Mackie. Yeah, his example of like he's lost a huge amount of weight because he's now and then he's moved to Zwift, and now recently his FTP's 435 watts legitimate, and it's like it is mind blowing. And sorry, this guy is called Norwegian Watt on YouTube, and he's this little guy with 400 views, and he's just like trying to go, and he's now going to take us through this journey of losing weight, which I think is great, because it's not just racing, which I think is something. And as you said, like there is that whole other side of it, where the guys are just trying to improve their health and then trying to engage with the community. So yes, I agree, it's not all about racing in the elite level, but there's also the sense of community, and this whole, as again, we comes back to, we have passion for it, and we want to kind of all together drive it forwards.
Yeah,
If that
and
makes
what they are
sense.
doing,
Like,
I will say, like, this is a little bit of a bunny trail that we're doing, but like, I do think that they're doing a really good job of highlighting people who are more like connected to not elite level racing necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Danny Enzo, I think, is a great example of somebody who's jumped in the last year to Zwift and is like doing a great job of content creation and showing how you can like be just like C, D category rider and work his way into B category through learning what Zwift even is. You know what I mean? Like, great example of that. I think Eric Lee is another one. Don't Get Dropped is a great example of a community channel. So it's a great example of a community where like those kinds of things. And I also and what I'm trying to say is I understand why Zwift would want to share that stuff on their channels and not scare away the segment. Cause they like right now, that segment of elite racers, they know about Zwift. They're either going to race Zwift or going to race somewhere else. There's not really going to be much convincing any longer happening, right? And so, like, that's part of the reason why you're not getting that share necessarily, because you can't just like, you'll get a little bit like Go Watch Now, but it doesn't live on the reason. What I'm getting at here, Barney, is that sport has to live on in an ESPN space, and Zwift cannot be that. I don't think it. I don't know. Like, that's what I think. I think that it just can't.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because also it's down to the personality of the rider. If you are an elite rider,
no, but you hear what I just said though? I just made a claim.
No, I hear.
My claim is that, like, you can't. Maybe it can. Maybe I might be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But like, it did the media wing as esport thing that ended up turning into a show actually that didn't. I don't know that it can do it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it needs to just focus on making a game. Like,
and providing the platform and providing the platform for people to go on their health journeys, to people to get fit, but then allow people that want to race, and then allow promoters and other people to come in if they need to organize events and event organizers to come organize their events. But again, it's also down to the personalities that are involved.
Yeah.
Are you do you come in as, again, it's like, I hate using it, but the elite cyclist, the stereotypical elite cyclist that just doesn't have time for anybody else, doesn't want to talk to anybody else, thinks they're better than everybody else, but then you need to be leveraging the people that are engaged, that are, people that are approachable or engaged with community, people, that want to give the time back to the community and want to try help and drive the community there, that aren't just there for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That, if you get what I'm saying, it's that kind of, but then it's the same sense of, is Zwift also there, and they, are they there for themselves? But those people are going to exist either way. Like, you know what I mean? That's going to exist either way. But yes, I agree. There needs to be focus and like
going to what they're going to use as far as the people go. Now, here's another side of all this. So we were kind of like going into like, okay, how does the market work? And like, can, where the interests are in the promotions of events and the promotion of the esports space and the growth and the living on of the esports space. And then you have like another platform like MyWhoosh that has the status and the titles and all of that kind of stuff. But like, what's the driver? What's the right? Like, at least there's a community on Zwift right now that's super interested in racing. Like, there's 20,000 people racing on Tuesday nights across Z Racing. There's thousands upon thousands. There's all of these little pop-up leagues that are like growing massively. Like, I think it was 3,000 participants in Flamme Rouge Racing. There was, you know what I mean? There's the chasing tour. I mean, you have these dirt racing, you have, all of these different countries that are starting to have their niches, obviously. And so, but then like, there's obviously a large user base who are paying, who are a part of a market that are like, I want to do this on this platform. And then like, you have a situation as far as like market driving and like but like, MyWhoosh is like all about racing. It feels like, you know what I mean? They're very much about racing, but then, and everyone's like, yeah, that's where it's at because UCI. And I'm like, but if someone just changes their mind, it's gone. Like if a couple people literally just change their mind in 3 years and there's no user base, what just happened? Like literally what, huh? Like they just, well, no, RGT though had a user base and they were trying to develop and they were trying to pull users in and they were trying to like do this whole thing. But my point is like, if 1 or 2 people or maybe 10 people, I don't know how many people are making these decisions to like throw money at this space, but if they just decide that they just don't want to do it anymore, it's not like there's a demand from the market going, I want to race here. Do you see what I'm saying? So like, then it's just gone. Yeah. So, and I get it. Money is the driver. I hear the money is the driver, but like, where, like, so money is a representative. So I'm getting philosophical now at this point, but money is like, well, at least in certain types of markets, money is a driver of attention and focus and desire and like what our wants, right? You know what I mean? So like what I'm getting at is like here, like within this subscriber based model that's fueling this, looking for return from investment with Zwift, like that at least has like this pull where I'm like, I'm not sure that, and I would just be, I'd be scared to invest there because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong though here. Like the UAE team is in existence, right? And it seems to be existing longer term and doesn't seem to be going anywhere, right? So, okay, cool. Like that could be, but I would just be a little freaked out. Like what if somebody just like snaps their fingers and they don't want to do this one anymore and you just invested in this whole space and it's gone? Like that freaks me out a little bit. You know, do you get what I'm getting at there, Barney?
Yeah, I get it. It's scary.
Red flags to talk about? Like, are you like, I don't know if I want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's like, it's such a hard one to talk about and such like, because again, you can like, you know, no matter what you do, again, you'll pee somebody off and somebody will get upset about it. And then, you know, and then, yeah, don't invest in it. My wife says this, but like, it's the man, like, I really enjoy like the racing and then like other opportunities that I've got through Zwift, but then I also don't want to like, man, it's hard. Like I understand some of the positions that some of these people are in, but then I'm also like, but then give the community the freedom to be able to also grow the platform for you and bring in new people, you know, and
hey, and I want to be clear here before we go back on anything like that, but like, I think it's really cool in some ways that like people can go race for money. I think it's really cool. Like I just don't understand the sustainability of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not totally saying it's bad that people are investing in cycling or that's bad that people want to grow. Awesome. I don't understand the model and I don't like, and I'm kind of like freaked out about how it might work down the road. And currently with the game state of MyWhoosh, I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm not connecting the dots about like how all of this is coming together other than snap the fingers money. You know what I mean? Like, and title swapping and all that. So anyways, we've gone all over the place there. Let's go back.
I just want to add like two things. I think the money that the MyWhoosh is putting in the Sunday Race Club for all the categories is great because it's changing the lives of some people that are committed to it and getting into it. Like
that's what I was trying to say, like, kind of.
That's a great way to put it. It's really, really great to see. And which is great because it's driving the level of the racing, and you can see that level of that Cat 1 racing has gotten like
it got a little too crazy this past weekend.
Whoa,
is that what we're saying?
This is nuts. No, well, you can say that, but I'm just gonna say like, wow, like I'm sitting here looking at the numbers, going like, and I have for a long time since this Sunday Race Club, and my eyes are just like, oh, like this is nuts, like crikey, I can't even hold those wheels type thing. But then they're also doing really cool things with the verifications, and they've got their own unique verification process, which I think is great because again, if you have one standardized process, somebody's going to find the loophole and then going to exploit it. So then having slightly different verification processes, it means that the people that are going to try and cheat will eventually get found out.
And you know what? It is a chicken or egg thing. Look, it is a chicken or egg thing too. Like I might be totally wrong that like there's not going to be a user base there, and maybe that's their end goal is like, let's get a huge user base here, and this is how we're gonna go about it. Like I'm not seeing the draw yet, other than for the racing for the cash, but like and then having the official like status stuff. but maybe that'll drive a user base then that would justify this thing. Like if that happens, I was wrong. You know what I mean? Then there was something there and I was totally wrong. But okay, so on the Overwatch example here, I'm just going to throw this in here real quick. Is there was an article that just went out actually from PC Gamer this yesterday, I think it was published 2 days ago. 2 months after killing the Overwatch League, Blizzard teams. So if you don't know what Overwatch is, it's a first-person shooter. It's one of the biggest first-person shooters in the history of all first-person shooters in video games. It's been one of the top performing video games for quite a long time at this point. Going back all the way to 6 years ago, somebody was talking about, the Overwatch League and what it's going to become. It's one of the only games out there that has college teams competing with full rides to go to schools, like with coaches who are paid. I mean, it's a full-on esport, but their main top level folded and is now going to promoters that are community organizations like DreamHack and similar to what ESL is and other ones that are out there. Yeah, right. So and here's the interesting thing is they also have an influx of money actually from what looks to be Saudi Arabia's esports org actually, but that's a sponsorship, it looks like, versus a ownership of the promotions from what I'm understanding there, which is a little bit different. But this is where it was almost like I said this it was a year ago or 2 years ago. I even said this on the Zwiftcast, like in our over and over again over the last 7 years of podcasting about this. I keep coming back to the example of what Overwatch was doing. And 6 years ago, I talked about them trying to own this space and what's going to happen with it. And it was like, I said, I think even then the writing is on the wall. Like, it's not like if they try and own this too much and try and create something new the way that they were, it's not, and it ended up failing. And now they're going back to the community to give them and the promoters back the model that the rest of the esports space seems to be successful with this like tournament style on a rhythm, hype building space that they can go and function on their own to have their own benefit from. And Overwatch looks like they're going to focus on making an awesome game instead.
But what all these things are, what is it linchpin on? The community. And you need the community's engagement, you need the community's involvement to do it. If you're going to try as a platform, try and control it solely yourself and don't give any freedom or ability for the community to do it for you, to then, inverted commas, add their own growth to it or try add their own spin to it. As you said, Overwatch, like with the Overwatch example, it could just die out on its own unless there is that community engagement. You look at, you can look at, again, for prime examples, the Twitch numbers and what people are watching. You can see there that, the Call of Duties and the Counter-Strike goes and the 100,000 people per stream watching, the blast, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. 100%.
Because the community wants to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, the engagement, the word engagement, I think a lot of people might be thinking when you say the community engagement and the community in which they get involved, I think there's also that like in between space of like, when you use the word community, like people providing things in a community, like you have, like, what is their product? Communities exist on their platform, right? Like people what is X's, what is Instagram's, and people like grow their own benefit in those spaces, right? That end up having movements, having whole things. And like,
what is Discord?
And so I think I just really feel like the tipping point here, and I keep on saying this over and over again though, but I really do feel like the tipping point here on this, and it comes up in different ways though. And I guess that's why I keep coming back to it, is because it comes up when we watch what MyWhoosh is doing, but it comes up when we watch like what the next thing is in the esports space. It comes up when it comes to verification. It comes up, it seems to be this common denominator in some sort of ways, or maybe I'm just hooked on it, but
again, it's like it's getting views and getting eyes on it, which then brings in the team's ability to bring in sponsors to then sponsor the teams, or event promoters to bring in sponsors to sponsor the event, because obviously they want exposure. The sponsors want exposure for their brand, so then they need viewerships, they need numbers, and they need engagement and all that stuff. So
Yeah, and
you
that
know,
could be a confusing thing. I do wonder about that sometimes, like trying to manage those commercial type deals at the Zwift level, like you're like partnerships like that with Zwift. I mean, I think Zwift have the user base to do things in game where you have like a whole bunch of people showing up for a thing, and that makes sense. But then like at the esports level, like it's kind of like Zwift are at this mass, you know what I mean, when it comes to engagement with just users who are hanging out in the game, and like I'll ride a specialized, or like I'll put on the Strava kit, or I'll put on the, you know what I mean, the Rafa kit. And like, that's an engagement of a brand that's on the platform. But then like to shift that over to viewership of an esport is a totally different thing, right? With the engagement of those things. And that's where I'm like, it's just not there. Like we're talking peak Zwift, 43,000 people, right? And like,
and people watching as well.
Exactly. And like, I think that's why it has to take on more of a grassroots thing. And also the platform itself, again, we come back to that. That's a different brand engagement. That's a different way in which that existed. It existed because someone wrote code for a video game to exist, that someone represents themselves as an avatar and go ride, right? Like that is a totally different product than someone's coming here to watch a sports broadcast. You know what I mean? Two very, very different, very, very different things where I think they get a little bit confused with each other sometimes. I don't know. Like, at least that's what my sense is there.
Yeah, and again, it's that whole thing of balancing the commercial and balancing that whole, like, and again, I think Zwift is very new to it, but again, you look at it, but then esports is very established to it. But then you can see now all these other companies and brands realizing the following engagements that can come with it, and the return that can come on with it as well is huge. You look at the numbers that people are watching, and the numbers are still growing, and it still blows my mind when, not even the finals, and you're seeing 100,000 people watching a one Twitch stream. But then they're also able. But the thing is, what that doesn't include, you're not looking at as well, as the people that are watching it in game. That are in Dota watching the broadcast live within thing. Can you do that within Zwift? Well, you can just you can follow me as a rider and then click into the event.
That's the last thing I'll say about this.
But then you don't have the audio. It's that same thing.
The most successful space we know of is CS:GO and Dota, and CS:GO is a little bit different. I need to do a little bit more look at that, but like Dota, I do know really, really well. I don't know CS:GO quite well enough, but I do see who the entities are there, and they are very similar to what we see. As far as, I don't think it's quite as free as Dota. Dota has always been a very free space, like to the point that like broadcast ability was built in from the get-go, that anyone can just watch and just broadcast it. Like anyone, like boom, just go. And so
you can join anybody's matches and watch,
anybody's matches and just watch them. Right. And so like, very interesting how that works and how that has evolved. All right, we went down, and this is how it always goes. I should have warned people at the beginning of the podcast that Barney and I tend to go super rabbit hole. But I'll put a couple of links. I actually have them here in the show notes if you guys would want to check out what's happening with that Overwatch and why I keep track of that, along with one of the interviews actually 6 years ago from Richard Lewis, actually, which is a pretty good one that like might be interesting for some of you that get into the mind of like where I'm thinking and how I'm thinking. It might even interest you to start tracking with some of those spaces, because I do think in a lot of ways, the Zwift space and how it's going to function is a lot more like the esports space than it is like the in real life cycling space, as far as it as an esport. Now, on the other side of it, though, it's kind of funny. The interaction of the player, though, like you said earlier, I think that we have to gamify cycling and not like, I think it's a whole new thing. That's this synergization that needs to happen. That if people, that we need to gamify it more, but it's not necessarily Mario Kart. It's more cycling gamified. It feels more like cycling, even though you can't do that in real life. It still feels like in the sense that I think here's one example, and this is one example would be the CDA reduction that you get right now. If you go 10%, 20% higher, it's actually 20%. I checked with the devs. If you go 20% higher on your wattage, and you're not drafting, and you go 20% higher on your wattage, you get a 5% decrease in your CDA right now in Zwift. That's how it works. So if you're not
higher than what?
Than what you previously had for CDA. So you essentially, you get a 5%.
No, but you said, so what? So if you're doing 200 watts and you do 240 watts, you get,
and you do 240 watts, then you get 5% decrease in your CDA for 10 seconds.
For how long?
But it does not, but it does not stack. It's not a stacking thing, right? Now, I don't think we should necessarily say on screen, look, here's numbers that show that you have a lower CDA. But if you just had a thing that showed in your view that your avatar had wind going by a little faster. You know what I mean? It just had a little graphical whoom, you're going, it felt like and looked like you were going faster. I think everyone would just fully accept that's a cool feature. It looks like cycling. It feels like cycling. It feels like when I go this hard, and then I get drop, I went into the drops or whatever, because I increased my power by this much. It was a motivation directly from a controllable thing that has to do with pedaling that then gave me a gamified experience that feels exactly like something in cycling though. I think that's the kind of morphology that we need here. And I think for some reason that's not clicking.
Sorry, so I just read chat. Good transition to source. Oh
there
my gosh,
go. Good transition to sauce. We haven't gone okay.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, we have to talk about it because we said that we would, and that'll be our last topic before we do a couple little fun things. Because we went off for a long time there. So, sauce or no sauce? So let's transition off of, I think whatever. There's our gamification stuff and all that, but what do you think? So, but why are we talking about sauce or no sauce? It came up this past week. I had some people saying that there's people who are opting out of sauce and are trying to opt out of sauce, and that they're mad about it. And you came into the chat actually and were like, yeah, this isn't cool. I don't like this part of it, but I really like what sauce is doing. So where are you seeing this whole thing with the sauce versus no sauce? And first of all, for those that don't know, sauce is an add-on that you can get that essentially gives you more data on screen that's already local on your computer. So there's local data on your computer that Zwift is providing, and it takes that local data and exposes it so that you can see it. So you can see what your draft is. You can see different kinds of averages, because you don't have an average in game, right? Well, you can put an average, so you don't have to do it on your computer. You can see riders nearby in a different way. You can see groups of riders nearby in different ways. So, and it does take some of that data and then enhances it maybe even a little bit too. So, sauce or no sauce? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Because again, obviously it's paid, so you have to pay a monthly subscription for it. So yeah, but it's the one thing I was interested in again is that your information is at that watt balance. It's calculation for the watt balance is out there, but I didn't realize it was part of the local data, and it's just out there, that can consume and thing. And you can pay for source to get a competitive advantage of everybody else in the field, to see how hard that rider has been going, inverted commas, to see what their watt balance, or how much is left of in their tank compared to say you, or compared to everybody else. I don't personally use source. I've never used source. And it's interesting. And I think how much? $5 a month.
$2 USD. It's actually $2 a month. If you want to, so if you want to be like a super subscriber, you can pay $5.
So yeah, so it is really cheap and really accessible. So maybe that's $2. Maybe I have to get it now so I can get that advantage to see how my competitors are doing. But again, it was that for me, I was
thing is not actually very accurate, because it just gives everybody. For those that aren't familiar with watt balance, there is watt balance in the back end of sauce, and so you can see which is an ICU. It was intervals ICU is like a
Yeah.
platform that you essentially it tells you what your VO2 max tank is, and so it measures how hard
How
you
many
can
matches you
go.
have.
Yeah, how many matches that you have left essentially. And so you then, if you could see other people's watt balances, then you could see how many matches that they necessarily have left. And so, that's one thing, people may be like, hey, wait a second, is this fair? You can't see that in somebody necessarily. At the same time though, like you can see people's heart rates and
Yep.
like, look, again, this is another situation where we're trying to gamify something that you can kind of get in real life. Like I can sense when
Yes.
someone's hurting next to me in a mountain bike
Yes.
race. And I know when to attack them,
you can't
but I have
see.
to like,
But in theory, you can't see their heart rate.
no,
You
I can't see the heart
exact
rate
power output.
and I can't see their exact
yeah.
power output. And that's where I'm like,
But
is there a happy medium with stuff like that?
But then there's also really cool, like now you see it like with the Tour de France stuff where they're getting the live data and stuff being transmitted to the broadcast, which then in theory the other teams and all the teams have access to can see, which is great. So in theory everybody has access to the same information. Which for me, which is one little sore point about Source is that yes, people have access to information, but then it's biased to the people that have had paid for that access to that information, so it's giving them inverted commas a competitive advantage and access to information that the people that don't pay for it have, or the people like somebody in the chat says has an Apple TV and can't get Source, which makes sense. So it's platform inverted commas platform limited in terms of what platform that you're using in terms of Apple.
It'd be great
TV,
if we
Android,
had like an
such.
add-on then maybe for like you could do it on your
Oh, yeah.
phone. It could
Yeah,
read the companion
exactly,
app maybe or something.
like a little
That'd be
app.
kinda cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be
Which would
kinda
be really cool. And so but then there was talk initially as well around it could be, is it TOS, like is it breaching of the TOS, and is it breaching of the Zwift racing rules? So then there was also a lot of apprehension around that too, and seeing it. But then there's also understanding of the Zwift craft, and we all know that and we've seen it inverted commas, that percentage of the draft number, that the 5 meter, when you say hold the gap for 5 meters, the draft still exists after that disappears for a bit. Yes, it dramatically drops off, but there's still inverted commas a bit of draft.
It still exists, and so it's not accurate, and so that's why it's important actually maybe to have Sauce, because the current draft in game doesn't necessarily show you an accurate reading. So there's a whole nother side of things. The thing on the paywall, there's two sides to this. I sit on both of them. Okay. I currently pay for Sauce. I see money in a way that is more about like where I put value. And so I think that the more value something is shown to have, the better if it actually has real value. And I think what Sauce is doing has real value, in that it's good that exists actually. And that if it were free, it actually wouldn't do what it needs to do to push the space forward. Like it creates tension, and tension is a creative force. Like that. And so I understand the frustration as an individual who doesn't maybe want to give that value to something and doesn't see the value in it, maybe. And there's a criticism maybe to like change it in some way that creates more value, or make it a part of something that is a full value to the but either way, it obviously has some sort of value because people are paying for it. And that, go ahead, Barney.
But then being devil's advocate, if it's in Zwift already, why can't we in Zwift customize the UI as it is, and then change it and add that ourselves, or change a value in the top left corner, so instead of it showing cadence, show something else, shows the draft number. It's something like that. It could be something as simple as that. Why? And if the numbers are available, why can't we just customize it? Or as you said, in the top bar along the top, where you have the event, you can add onto the thing to the side of the elevation left, or the normalized power, or average power for the ride so far, or again, simple one, lapping lapping your power, so you can do it in intervals while riding. It's small things like that. It's like, but that would add huge tremendous value to Zwift as a base product. or as a base
Now,
platform.
do we get, now here's the question. Do we go and get mad at someone who created that for us? Though, you know
No.
what I mean? Like, no, I don't think we should get mad at somebody who created it for us. And like, I don't know,
Because
it's a
it's
hard,
opened the door. It's
place.
open for the door, like the guy who created Source to come step in and create value and add value and create a service, inverted commas, and a product that then fills that void.
Yeah.
You know,
For
which is
now.
which is then, so then do you look at it like this? Does Zwift inverted commas provide this service at an extra $2 on top of their already subscription, but it's baked into Zwift and
Yeah,
you
like a
can get it as a
partnership,
valid add,
or
like a partnership.
something.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
pay for Zwift UI, Zwift Source, partnership, and then you can do it like that kind of thing. So then it still allows people to freely create their own tools on the side, but then something like this with the UI is baked into it so that people, so people that aren't potentially as tech savvy, the integration's already there. Because some
Mhm.
Zwifters aren't the most tech savvy or the most, can't struggle to deal with things like that, and all they're really good at is pedaling a bike, but then they need some help with something
Yeah, I
like
wonder
this,
if
or made it very simple.
if the guys behind Sus would share and be like, yeah, sure, like I'll be an add-on. Like,
I'd be super keen. Like
well,
I'd
I
be super
mean,
keen. Like
because
when
okay,
we
what
used to
happened with
interview them and
Curse?
talk to
I
them
don't
about
know
it.
what happened in the background with Curse when it came to World of Warcraft. Chat, help me out if you got any World of Warcrafters out there. But like, who ended up partnering with Curse to make it a verified product that kind of it like ended up partnering from what I remember with Blizzard in some sort of way. And these were all add-ons that like you kind of couldn't be a top end raider without having them. Like it was like literally, just so everybody knows, in the background of like the esports space, the add-on world, there was a whole bunch of
It's huge.
partnerships that ended up happening. It's huge. And like whether or not you were a top level World of Warcrafter, you had to have these add-ons essentially, or you just couldn't be like literally. I remember when I didn't have those add-ons and I was trying to like get into it, and people just like literally laughed at me. Like they were like, "Wait, you're using the usual UI, dude?" They like snickers in the background. You know what I mean? Like we're on TeamSpeak or something at that time, and they were like, oh, here comes the guy who's still clicking the usual UI buttons. Right on, buddy. Like, no wonder you're so slow at this or whatever. So like, and then eventually it got so common that it became its own full-fledged business that was completely official and recognized, and then ended up getting bought by another company actually or something like that. So I don't know the exact history there, but which is interesting. Like, is that a way that this could because I think part of the reason I'm talking about that whole add-on space and giving some background in this is like, I think some people are like, oh, this is or shouldn't be happening, or this is wrong, and this is accessing. Hey, all this data is on your computer. Like it's on your computer, and like you're giving another platform like the right to access data that's like on your computer. Like whether or not other
Giving, it's giving
there's
right is not
other
the right word, but your information's already there as part of being on the platform that then other services and add-ons are consuming and then displaying for other people in a different way that is not available on the current platform. So adding value to it.
Yeah.
But again, that's where the whole like the mod scene and the whole, as you said, the add-on scene is huge. You look at Factorio and such as well. The space exploration, and Factorio is basically another game on top of Factorio that just adds a whole new element to it. And you
What's
look the same
that?
thing.
What is that?
Oh, Factorio is great. It's a great so basically the game is based is that you're an astronaut that crashes your spaceship crashes and you got to build a spaceship and send yourself home. Is
Really?
the crux of it, and you got to
Okay.
but you start with nothing and you build your factory, and then people, and again you can grow it and scale it, and people speed run it, and people speed run the 100% achievements, which is 4.5 hours worth of gameplay, and it's insane to watch, and it's just the skill involved
And
with is
there's
insane.
some
So again,
UI mods, and there's some mods that you use with this
yeah,
game.
and then you overlay onto the game. It basically
And do
takes
they
the default
cost? Do they
gameplay
cost
and
something? These
no,
mods? No,
cost
these ones
nothing.
don't
A lot of
cost
them cost
nothing.
nothing.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is interesting. Yeah, and it basically changes the gameplay. So you can get all overhaul mods that just completely change the default game. It's that sort of thing. So yeah, we've gone down another rabbit hole completely. But coming back to Source is good, but Source is something also highlights where I think should be fundamentally also basic on Zwift, but also could be some of it could be basic from Zwift, but then some of it could also easily be a value add that Zwift can add on as an extra service on top of their subscription. So, you could keep it at, say, $15, and then if you want the racing package, it's an extra $5. If you want the UI package, it's $2.50. That sort of like thing. So you can add into a subscription, and they then unlock this value to your subscription, because the guys that are just on it to ride and train couldn't give a hoot. Maybe they pay an extra $5 for an online for a separate training program or a unique training program.
You'll get pitchforks about that though, man. You'll get like, nah, that should just be a part of this, and we shouldn't have to pay, more for. But
you got to pay for the time that people put in and the effort that people put in creating.
Well, I think our desire is that Sauce would get, its due, because it pushed the platform and it pushed for like, this is obviously something that people want, and so yeah, it's a tough spot actually in some ways. I don't necessarily have an answer there. I like sauce for me. For sure. I like hot sauce. Like, I put sauce on everything. Okay. So, but I do understand the arguments about not, but I think it's good in general for the entire space. And I do think that the
wife raises a very good point here. It's a bit like Strava Premium, right? And it is very much
but there's sauce for Strava too. There's sauce for Strava.
Of course. But we're talking about like the service add-ons that Strava Premium gives. Yeah. And then you look at things like intervals.icu, which is like, I really enjoy it, and I think it's great and has really good information. And it's that sort of stuff as well that, it's just a weird one. It's like, and kudos to the guy, and I don't know his name, but I really think, if he's listening or somebody knows him, reach out to him and try come get on the podcast, like, because I think it's something that definitely we need to like. I think there's something that a lot of people want to hear about and are interested in the story and the idea of like, how did he come about it, and what are the fundamentals behind it, and what is like, how does this work and how does that work, and it's great.
I invited him on, and we'll see. He wanted to wait, I think. So we'll wait and see if maybe we're at that point, because it would be great to get some background and all that. Very, very interesting individual, that's for sure. But I hope we kind of like laid out like the main contentions. Paywall, understand that. I think it's great that you add value to something that's desired out there, but at the same time, it's like, well, should there be this paywall to something, or there is that's already like a part of a platform that I pay for here, so what the heck? Like, I don't know, like that one's a tough one for me to not justify, but I understand that people that are on the platform don't feel like they've communicated necessarily with this other entity, Sauce, suddenly, that like, now I need this in some sort of way. So it's kind of like somebody came along and was like, hey, I'm going to add something. And like, I didn't want you to add that. Wait, I didn't want that to be a part of my experience. You know what I mean? And so I understand that, where like you're paying for one experience and you didn't know in this social experience that you were going to be getting another experience where you care about what the other person's experience is, that they're not getting the same experience as what you are on the platform. And it matters to your experience of the platform.
But it also can add value to your experience, but then also can save Zwift the effort and the time and the resources, not having to now get and develop that tool because somebody else is providing that tool at a really competitive price, which Zwift.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one, isn't it? To just endorse and flip a switch that says authorize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
which they authorize and then they allow and then they make it and then they somehow find a way to integrate it a bit more. And make it
this is something I was looking at yesterday. You mentioned intervals ICU, right? So like, I'm gonna bring this up here real quick. And this one I was a little bit like, whoa, this is eye-opening to me. At the bottom,
but also how many people know about source that are outside of the racing? Like only people I think only people that race know about source.
True. Okay. True. Well, yeah. I mean, why else would you want it? Why else would you want it? I'm just gonna make sure I'm not sharing. Like, I hope I'm not sharing. I'm just making sure I'm not sharing any private data here, real quickly. But so
shows your training data.
Well, just this is interesting right here, everybody.
Oh yeah, this.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can connect all of these to intervals ICU I mean, it's a click.
And those all open IC like APIs that you can easily get access to, and you can then get hold of the information that feeds between it. So, and you can develop these connections quite easily and apply for them quite easily. For one of the work hackathons that I did, I applied for the Garmin Connect API, and they gave it to me really quickly and easily. And it was an amazing in terms of the information and how rich the information it is, and you could use it to build something that adds value to somebody's life.
Yeah, I mean,
as a really example.
I mean, you look at as well as Strava. I mean, how does Sauce for Strava exist and the different integrations that you have across the entire space within the exercise space? Like, it's almost like that was an assumption. Like, when you started cycling, you got involved with Strava and Garmin and Wahoo eventually got into the space. But I think, like, for me, it was Garmin and Strava up front, the first places I really started sharing my data, right? And it kind of just became an assumption that when I would log into a new program, like then Training Peaks, and then when I started using Training Peaks, it was just like, of course it should interact with the backend data authorization so that it just seamlessly goes between each other. And then like Strava, it would just seamlessly go between it. You know what I mean? And like all of these applications that enhance the space for everything to rise together. And that was like yesterday, seeing that, like just the realization that like something like as small as intervals ICU, or I re-upped my exert the other day, or I was looking at the Strava and I was like, every one of these, it was just a basic assumption that there is an API here to interact with these, get them all interacting to flip that switch. Yeah.
And it's amazing how we've gotten to the point with our cycling, and that if the the freedom of information, the accessibility of information, we all expect it just to be there. And like it just I think
just GDPR killed that a little bit. I think that that wrecked it up a little bit there. But all right, well, guys,
which is good as well because it saves our data from being in the wrong hands.
We should have like Alice in Wonderland and a rabbit. Anytime we have James Barnes on, that should be
the two of us together.
This right here should just have a rabbit and Alice in Wonderland going down into the pool. So is it a Halo, everybody? Or is it a pitchfork, sauce or no sauce? Let us know in the comments, and let us know over on because there's some people who are pretty passionate about like I don't want to like really like it's bad. And there were teams that straight up said we don't use sauce. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're not using it. Like, and Zwift even have a setting that Zwift even have a setting in ZGP, like you can't use it in GGP. Like there's a setting that just makes it go away.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a rule that you can't use it in because you look at it as well, like you're gaining an advantage in being able to look at your peers' numbers for like not, for something that you should instinctively be able to figure out yourself, and your Zwiftcraft and your racecraft be able to kind of tune into and see. Inverted commas. If that makes sense, without having to actually look. Yeah, I've said it wrong, but like I can see your face.
Well, no, I think okay, I understand what you're saying. I think to a point, yes. Yeah. I don't know. I think like one solution to what you just very specifically this exact detail of like perception of other people's efforts. Maybe instead of like look, I want a straight up magic bar. I want a mana points health bar. We're putting it on. We're putting the current thing that we got on on stream, right? Awesome. Around broadcast, which is great for broadcast. But in game, at like maybe how many times this person has gone over FTP for a minute, or how many times they've gone into this zone, like a matches were burned, kind of.
Yeah, 150%
you know what I mean?
FTP.
And wow, if that guy or that gal can go that many times into the red, good for them, right? But it doesn't actually show you what they have left necessarily, but it shows you.
I think. But then that's where that bar that you've got on the broadcast is great, because it it quantifies for somebody who doesn't understand Zwift racing and cycling what the effort is involved in to do those efforts in the racing, which is something which I saw, which was very, which the UCI, when they saw it in Singapore, is that they were like, wow, it was great to see the physical exertion and the effort that you guys actually had to put in to do these things. And yes, as Mike, we are off on another rabbit hole, but it's a really important one to see, is that there's that you need to connect again with the other people, make it consumable to people who don't understand the platform and racing, and make it easily understandable for them to also see kind of what's going on. And that's where as well, where I go with GP, where sometimes some of the formats are very hard and very confusing to follow without the having of how many kilometers are left in the bar, and you can't clearly see it coming to, on the broadcast. You can't see when the finish is in 10Ks, 5Ks, or 100 meters unless somebody says, or the route yourself.
Yeah, we got to fix that on our side too, on that part. But I think one thing that I have said over and over and over again, and I'm going to stick to, is like, for understanding, and I do think there might be a higher value of people just understanding what's going on around them. I think that we get so into the nitty gritty of like competition and the competitive side of us, and it's not fair, and I want to have this, and it's got to be pure, and I think sometimes is a lens that can overshadow how cool it would be and how interactive it would be to have an energy bar, to have like what Zert has with an MPA, like maximum power available right now. That's what that person has, and I can attack it. Because in a video game, like when I'm in an arena situation in a World of Warcraft arena, I can see that so-and-so's health bar is so low, and I tell my teammate, I got you, dude. I'm healing you right now. Go all in on that guy, right? He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die. They're dead. We won. Like, and it's that graphical representation. And if we had that in game, I think it would actually make the racing more engaging. I think that it would actually make the racing
100% for the broadcast. Yeah,
I think I agree there, but I would say even for the racers' perspective, I think that people would start
make it available
more,
to everybody.
They would start pushing more because they could see what's happening from their efforts.
Yeah, but make it available for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody, for everybody.
Not just
for
somebody
everybody.
or some people. Which especially in like a GP level type thing. But it's and
sound effects. Oh, Gina's coming in. Gina's coming in with sound effects. What if like somebody was like dying and they like, instead of you pushing "I'm toast," when they got under a certain mana bar, it'd be, I'm dead. I need a gel. I need a gel.
Well, your avatar flicks the elbow.
That starts automatically flicking the elbow, or the avatar starts hunching over. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's it as well. And I think you adding things like that power bar, and then if you could add that to ghost thing would be great, and adding value to the to engaging the community, because it makes it easier for them to follow.
Yeah, that's one thing.
But then not also as somebody says, not pushing out so much data, not pushing out so much data that you're overstimulating and just completely swamping people in numbers.
Yeah, let's go back to your point then there, and it's a really good point about like that. I think that seeing the effort of the camera of the rider is good. It's good, but it's not why people watch esports. Okay, like the cameras on the riders are supplemental. They are supplemental. Yes. The game communicating what is happening with the effort is primary. That the supplement is the rider and their camera and what they're doing. What's happening in the game itself has to be the main entertainment. Do you see what I'm saying?
But I also think it's key, and people really enjoy the added value of seeing the people in the webcams, because they can see that this person is actually putting in every ounce of effort. And you see, like, you've seen some of Brian's sprints where he's literally all over his bike, trying to crawl out of his bike and rip his trainer out of the floor.
But what I'm saying is
great to see.
So, and I agree at the high level where it makes sense, or even like the ERL level or whatever, like that in between from community to what is like being broadcast, like great. But I think that we know we've done a really good job. Well, not me, but Zwift has done a really good job with the platform, or any platform has done a really good job with the platform when that's not needed to very clearly and concisely communicate on the spot and just look at it and know exactly what is going on with that rider's effort without a camera on them. Then we're like, okay, I can relate to that. And my daughter, I showed my daughter the energy bar or health bar or whatever. And I texted her, I was like, look what we're doing, because she's into gaming. And she was like, oh, that like shows what their effort is. That's so like right away. She got it. Like, boom. She was like, that's their energy. I can relate. And she could relate to it like right away. Like, so anyways.
That's it as well. It's making it relatable to people that don't Zwift like us or race at that level, making it relatable to somebody. And then maybe somebody then gets excited about it and then tunes into it more regularly. And then you've got another viewer that regularly wants to follow the scene.
Two things can be true at the same time. Just like I'm not saying one or the other either. Like great supplement to the broadcast 100% when it comes to the cameras on riders. I'm not saying get rid of those. I'm not saying they're bad. I think though, like the main thing is the game and what's happening in the game. And like, we're not like in the back of my head, I'm like, if that's the primary thing, then let's just put a bunch of Zoom cameras up and watch them go hard and put some numbers on screen. You know what I mean? Like,
like the old school sprinting races where you got all the numbers on the wall and everybody's sprinting.
And there's like a terrain, like you just see the little dot go up a terrain and up and down, and we'll commentate that, and it'd probably be kind of entertaining, but that's not what we're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh man, it's good stuff. Well, all right, let's. This is the longest podcast in the history of podcasts. Spotting
This is the
Zwifters in the
biggest
wild.
rabbit hole.
Spotting Zwifters in the wild, Barney. So the other day, not the other day, but over the summer, Gabrielle and I were out on a ride, and we met up with a rider. We were like, and he was like, "Hey, we know each other from Zwift." I was like, and it was after a little while riding with him. I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm on the BMTR ride, BMTR TTT crew." And Gabby's like, "Wait, do I race with you?" And she's recently started guest riding with BMTR, and they had been doing TTTs together for like 2 or 3 weeks or something. Like, and we just happened to be riding down the road, and there's this person. And it was like a Zwifters in the wild moment where it was like, and they literally had been racing together, listening to each other on Discord. And all of a sudden, like for a while, we're riding together in real life. And then bam, it was like, oh, we actually like have totally done these efforts together before. So cool.
Exactly. And like I had that as well when we moved to New Zealand 4.5 years ago, and the bunch rider decided to join. I saw a guy in Innovation Kit. I was like, oh, that's the team I ride for. Like, started riding for in Zwift, and I was like, oh, it's Mark Shaw. Oh, I raced with him too. And then because I put this topic in and we spoke about it in pre-run. I said it's like something we could talk about because on the weekend I rode past somebody in full vegan cyclist kit while I was in my next kit and rode past, and I was like, hey, always nice to see another Zwifter in thing. And they turned and saw and recognized my kit and just had a laugh and giggle, and like it is. And then again, by chance this morning, riding into work, commuting in, I rode behind the guy full in the NZ Bro kit, which again, it's nice to see.
Really? You saw a full NZ Bro kit? That's so awesome.
Yeah, full NZ Bro kit, which is like, again, it's like really cool. And then, because he was hammering it, and I was like, yes, I'm a bit late for work, so this is great. So I'll just sit in this spot and we'll swap some turns.
Plus, going along the cycle path NZ Bro, that's just what it's like in Zwift with them anyways, too.
Yeah, so exactly. But then again, is that whole thing as well, is that like it's really cool to see other people that you like might race with online or thing, and then actually meet them in person and like see and it's something that for me that I've definitely obviously Zwift's grown a huge amount, and now seeing now people with their teams and stuff and getting their own custom kit for the teams is awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome. It is really awesome. All right, well, speaking of kits, everybody, it's a great transition. This is me 100% bragging at this point. Because look at that fashion. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Anna's not here for a week, so now I get to like, free reign, show off.
The mice are gonna go down the rabbit holes, and off we go.
Oh my gosh! But look at this thing. So I have been wearing this around because I jumped into a race for I don't know what it was, Z Racing or something. I was like, what do I got that's cool in my garage? I'll put something on here. And so I picked this Zwifters Outfield kit. And then I was like, what does this match with? And then I noticed that, and I'm just going to bring this up actually here real quickly, that the way that you can pair this up, that you can really flex your Zwifters kit if you have the Zwift beta shoes. And it's just little beta right there, just right there. But that's pretty clear. Hey, I was a beta program number 3002, Jarvis Island, exactly. Like, so there's a little bit of flex, and then you've got the Tron flex as well, going right along with it with the orange. And then I don't know what else is what else is the flex on this thing. I mean, obviously the hat. I've got the Scotty the Squirrel flex. I've got the Mercury Island.
Do you have the ZRL winning?
Oh, I don't. We won, and I didn't get one. I didn't get. Oh, I did get one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
I didn't even. I wasn't even told that I got it. I didn't even know I had that. Dang it! Thanks for letting me know. Barney. Barney comes on, and I find out. Now wait, here. No, it's either this or this. This is a pretty big flex. See, this is racing. This is racing. This is training. Racing. Training.
Bucket cap. No, bucket hat.
Go away. Oh my gosh. All right, everybody. Chat, let us know what the score. 1 to 10. I can't give it the glitch kit because the glitch kit is forever the 10, right? But I personally am giving this a 9.2. I think this is but I obviously designed this, so I might be a little bit biased.
I'll give you 9.5. I think this is like.
Whoa, he went higher than me. Kits. I was too humble on that one. I should have went higher.
This is one of my favorite kits. Like seeing the stuff that like, and when I saw you riding it, I was like, I want this kit. And yes, it's got white shorts. So yes, we're going against the whole trend. But yes, it's Zwift, so you can, you don't get.
You can get away with whatever you want.
Zwift, but like, oh man, this is like I just want to get to level 74 now. Like I am gonna go do some climb portal things and get to level 74. Then I can I'm done. I dig it. Like I dig it because it's not too it's simple, but it's not overly complicated. It doesn't shout, but it's like as you said, it's like the shoes. It's the hidden little details, like the beta on the side, and it's like
I'm so glad that you're actually like all about it. Like you still.
I just love that hat as well. I just want that hat so bad too. Oh my god! Like I just want.
What level are you?
Just ticked 68, I think.
68, got it. Right on. You gotta get some Wollonga Hills in, man. Wollonga Hill time. Let's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm gonna go get on the bike right now. Level 90 coming tonight. Here we go.
Don't you look, I can't attach mine to yours, and then you can just do it for me. Thanks. Great.
Oh my god.
Get a what's it? Jeff's situation here.
So 8.5, 8. Chris Nolan, Gina. Saying 8.5, Michael Templeton, Gabriella, come on, 8.5. What? Oh man, Neil's coming in with an 8. Yeah. Monique's coming in with a 7. She's had some banger comments, dude. I liked having. She's good, yeah. She's awesome.
You did. Oh man, this is great.
All right, everybody. Well,
she put the plant here behind me. Like I gotta thank her. Like she was like sitting there behind me. She's like, oh, I gotta get a plant in here. Gotta like sit you up, make it like look really nice in here. And I was like, oh, no. like typical dude. This is my study thing. Oh no, this is fine. And then she's like making it look really nice. And yeah, oh man, she's awesome.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Thanks for making it look really nice. Thanks for taking care of pre-productions, Monique. We appreciate you very much over here at ZCL. All right, everybody. Real quickly, what are you up to for the next week? Just more base, or like what's happening for racing?
Racing, just normal. Got ERL this weekend, and then got what is it? I've got obviously ZCL next week as well. And then done,
ZRL. I'm glad you called it ZCL because I'm glad, like, maybe we need to highlight your zone. Was that what you were trying to get at there? That like, hey, do the 12:15 one, 7:15 your time.
Yeah, but yeah, like got bunch ride tomorrow. Always love that because that can just, if you want it to be a hard ride, you can make it a hard ride. If you want to make it an easy ride, you can go in the easy ride group. If you just want to cruise along, you can cruise along. But then yeah, it's just meeting up with the mates again, having a coffee, having some banter. It's good for the soul. It's a long weekend here as well. The weather's going to be a bit iffy, so not too sure what that. But then my training otherwise is just basically just keep on building and keep on just the efficiencies, doing like FTP efforts with 1 minute efforts afterwards to kind of keep pushing it with 40/20s at the end, just to kind of keep driving it in.
Yeah, but you're trying to get that. You're getting ready for ZGP, so you need that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You need that right
no,
now.
Games,
Not
games,
Swift games. Sorry, Swift games. Yeah, ZG, no P.
Yeah.
ZG,
Yeah.
no P.
So like, so that's it for me. Like really just focusing on that and just keep going, keep building, stay healthy, and just keep driving it. You know.
Right on. I am trying to be in the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week. I've only gotten up to 2, I think, right now. But rebuilding the strength in the back. And then I'm going to probably race a lot this weekend and see how it goes. And then I need to get on that base. Like every ride I'm doing right now is like, all right, get into zone 2, steady it up. And I'll start getting some intervals going here, maybe. But really need the motivation's really just around racing. So obviously ERL's this weekend, so that's gonna be a ton of fun. There's a big party happening at the Metier with I think Neil Fretz showing up. A lot of the community members are gonna be there as well on site. I think the people are going to take tons of pictures, and it sounds like it's gonna be a cool party. So Pacific Northwest, if you're in the area, head over to the Metier during the ERL. You're gonna be in, so I'm obviously gonna have you on camera. We got to do that. You better show up on Saturday, bud. Like, let's go.
No pressure now.
No pressure.
I have to perform too by the sounds of it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you didn't know, this is also a podcast. Head on over to zwiftcommunitylive.com/podcast. We have been live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. If you really like the content, it helps a ton if you subscribe, if you hit those notification bells, if you comment, if you don't hit the mic. But those things help us a ton. We are gone past our goals at this point, but we definitely for the last month or so, which is absolutely awesome. I appreciate all of you new viewers and subscribers going for that 14K. Let's try and hit as quick as we can. But for now, that's going to be episode 80. Thanks so much, Barney. I really appreciate you, man. If you want to check out Barney as well, thanks, there's his Instagram right over there. He's also streaming a lot of his stuff as well over on Twitch. Is it just Barney NZ on Twitch as well?
Yeah, exactly the same there. Like Barney and twitch.tv/Barney NZ and 2 Hour Podcast. Let's go.
Yeah, he's also a lot like me, just as a warning. If he's racing, he'll probably go, yeah, good to do, like,
no, I talk sometimes.
He talks more than I do. He talks probably more than I do and nicer than I am when he's racing. So definitely go
often
let
the Discord in as well. I get the Discord. We get the team Discord in there too every now and again if it's a ZCL race as well, which is great because then you hear all the banter from Richie, which is just that banter from Richie is top class. Warning: the microphones of theirs are absolutely terrible, so it can sound like they're in their bathrooms and tin cans, but it is like it's so good for banter.
It's good stuff. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you next week for episode 81, but this has been episode 80, as always, from myself. And this week, Mr. Barney. Right on.